Hi everyone. Today we are going to be talking about how to build out your ideal client by specifically going through some common mistakes and talking about what not to do. Once again, your goal is always to reach your ideal client, to understand their pain point, and then speak to them about their pain point in a way that they understand. So you're meeting them where they are. There's always going to be a time when you become such an expert in your product or service that you kind of forget where your ideal client is and what they understand. And that's why going through this exercise is so important, because you want to be able to have a very thorough understanding of who they are, where they are, how to speak to them, what their pain point is, and to have something documented that you can go back to just for a little reminder occasionally. And of course, your ultimate goal is to help your ideal client reach their goals. So, how are you going to do this? It's going to be by defining who your ideal client is, but also avoiding these mistakes. What is an ideal client? An ideal client is someone who finds the perfect solution to their problems or needs in the services or products that your company provides. So, what does this mean? It means that your ideal client is the person that you're writing your copy for. It's the person that you're developing your marketing campaigns around. And then, of course, it's the person that you're selling to, but you need to remember that you're selling them a very specifically tailored solution for their pain point. You're not specifically selling your product, you're selling the end result. The first big mistake that people make when they start to work on their ideal client and building that person out is just by thinking that it doesn't matter and not doing it. It can take a lot of time and research to put together an ideal client. It certainly is not as exciting as posting to social or launching your website or even talking about your product or service. But ultimately, not doing this is going to prevent you from speaking to the person who wants your product or service. They aren't going to be able to find you because you aren't talking directly to them. You're not solving their problem. Next is just not being specific enough. A lot of people worry that if you get too specific, then you're limiting yourself and you're going to miss opportunities to connect with potential clients. Honestly, that's just not the case, because if your messaging speaks to everyone, then you aren't speaking to anyone. You want to be able to connect with your ideal client. And that doesn't mean that if someone outside of your profile finds you and is interested in your product or service that you have to say no. You just want to be able to empower your marketing messaging with the tools and language that are going to attract your ideal client to you. Next is building a wish list, not an ideal client profile. So this is just listing out what you wish your ideal client is thinking, doing, and experiencing. It's not taking the time to be realistic about who they are or where they are, which, as I mentioned earlier, is very important. You always want to meet your ideal client where they are in their journey. And if you don't take the time to do this and to build out the profile properly, then you won't be meeting them where they are, and you won't be speaking in the language that they understand and that resonates with them and makes them want to buy your product or service. Now, this is interesting. Sometimes people will go through all of the work and develop a really great profile for their ideal client. And then as they evolve their business and have new offerings or even update their product, they don't always remember to go back and see if they need to update who their ideal client is. A person who is buying your intro to personal training program isn't necessarily the same person who's going to be buying your in-person classes, your in-person group classes. So you want to keep that in mind as you're growing your business, and also just as your products change. The person that you were initially working with, once you get in a little further into your business, you may realize that you need to update who that person is. And then, of course, another mistake when you're building out your ideal client and writing for them is not considering where they fit into your whole funnel. So your ideal client is going to be hopefully coming into your funnel at the very top, but that isn't always the case. They could be entering at different points in your funnel depending on what parts of your marketing mix they're seeing. So you need to remember to update your messaging depending on where they are in your funnel. The mistake that people make is just relying on the same messaging over and over again and not adapting your messaging as your ideal client goes through your funnel. So right there, you just end up with missed opportunities. Now, if you want to know what you should be considering when you're building out your ideal client, this is a great place to get started. I have made a workbook for you, 10 questions to consider about your ideal client. The link is in the description below. Go download it now. And of course, I want to hear who your ideal client is, so comment below and visit calicocorner.co for more tips for creating captivating content.